LGB. 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 LGB.
They say LGB everywhere I go. LGB. What it means, I don't know. LGB. Whatever it is. LGB. Kamala, help me, please. Please.
Alrighty then.
Thank you. LGB.
That's let's go, Brandon, right?
LGB.
This means let's go, Brandon.
No. LGB.
Sounds like let's go, Brandon, I guess.
LGB. All right. Let's go, Brandon.
I am Cornholio.
Chant LGB. Right wing and left wing. LGB. Go, you know the thing. LGB. If you don't sing that back. LGB. And you ain't black. LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
LGB.
Let's go, Brandon.
FJB. Let's go, Brandon.
I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message.
Greetings, my dear friends, and welcome to another episode of Reading Epic Threads. I'm your host, Patrick Gunnels, joining you from Houston, Texas, this March 23rd, 2024 at 9:38 a.m. Central Daylight Time, and I'm getting back into the swing of things. We're going to start with an episode of Work Smart, Not Hard, where I record the work of Brian Cates and Seth Keshel for their audio on their Substacks. I've been getting away from all of that stuff, taking care of a recovering wife, but Ashley she's up and at 'em. So I'm very excited about that. So let's begin with my friend Seth Keshel. And this piece is entitled, Ballot Harvesting is Here, a Captain's 12-Point Commentary. Ballot harvesting is here, a Captain's 12-Point Commentary. Topic, Elections, by Captain Seth Keshel. Life often positions us awkwardly between desired outcomes and abject reality. Those who adhere to rigid ideology as a guiding principle are often left disappointed in political matters, whereas taking an honest assessment as to where things rest at the present moment often points us in the right direction as far as future planning goes. In the linked article in the previous sentence, I used Social Security as an example. As much as it is a socialist concept with piss-poor administration and subsequent piss-poor results, no conservative running for office would ever consider or message about getting rid of it for the simple fact that too many of their constituents and potential voters are relying on it to get by. If you've read this far, you can probably tell I'm tuning up the band for a hard-to-swallow pill. Ballot harvesting is here. Whether you like it or not, and I know people on both sides of this dispute, it is here for at least the 2024 election. Before anyone starts questioning where I stand on the ballot harvesting Hindenburg, I've written a justification for a thorough ban of the practice as part of my 10 points to true election integrity, and also explained in great detail why putting a stamp of approval on ballot harvesting as a widespread practice will likely result in electoral doom for the Republican Party and outsider candidates. There is absolutely zero written evidence out there of any approval of ballot harvesting coming from me. Now that that is out of the way, I was prompted to write this piece because since the retooled Republican National Committee hired Scott Pressler to head up legal ballot harvesting operations and much of the election integrity internet space exploded in rage and utter horror. Again, Seth Keshel strongly opposes ballot harvesting, not only on the principled belief that harvested votes are at best cheap and seemingly illegitimate, even if taken off of a living, breathing, and a registered to vote human being's hands, but also on the grounds that it is a one-way ticket to nowhere and will drum up millions of votes in the form of ballots the Democrats otherwise couldn't turn out thanks to their shitty candidate field post-Obama, and that party's hell-bent insistence on destroying America's working class through class, environmental, and immigration warfare, both legal and illegal. However, the RNC and most GOP candidates, where applicable, and roughly half of rank-and-file Republican Party members believe we are going to make up contrived electoral deficits by winding our way through the suburbs and out-harvesting the masters of election corruption at their own game. So, off we go. I tried to warn people for over 2 years about what elections reliant upon droves of people rushing around to collect mail-in ballots over a weeks-long early voting period will look like. Many who read this journal find these talking points useful in explaining the why to those who have not come to grips with just how far off course the last 3 federal elections have been, considering historical standards. Without further ado, this is my stream of consciousness regarding the inevitable move toward ballot harvesting, perhaps for the foreseeable future. A captain's 12-point commentary on ballot harvesting. The most offensive notion about the need to join them is that ballot harvesting is needed when your side doesn't get enough votes. That was the case for the Democrats after 2008, when Obama's presidency saddled them with not only severe losses in the U.S. House and Senate, but also throughout legislative chambers nationwide. In all but the bluest coastal enclaves, the Democrats under Obama were going extinct, especially as the age of Trump came to fruition. In 2020, Trump gained over 11 million votes from this and performance in 2016, making him the first incumbent president to gain votes and lose since Grover Cleveland in 1888. In 2022, Kari Lake nearly equaled Doug Ducey's 2014 total, in which he won re-election as Arizona's governor by 14 points, yet was denied that same office in a truly circus-level performance on the part of Maricopa County. We are getting the votes. Getting the votes isn't our problem. Cheating is. Commitment to ballot harvesting requires a belief that the same people who rigged our elections in 2018, 2020, and 2022 will somehow be tamed by surrendering more ballots earlier, dwindling election day turnout, and thereby making it easier to concoct the final outcomes of races, especially the close ones. Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Georgia, and Nevada. One of the main reasons we are here is because Republican legislatures, with Florida's being a notable exception, have done very little to abolish or curb the practice of ballot harvesting, prompting people to say, if you can't beat them, join them. Ballot harvesting and its requisite corruption is the root cause behind recent election decisions, and suits in Connecticut and New Jersey even looked negatively upon by Democrat judges. They know where to find the ballots in a pinch. You don't. Republicans are committed to engaging in ballot harvesting where legal. Democrats will engage in ballot harvesting everywhere, and then dare a court to reverse election outcomes, which, despite a few local flare-ups, has not happened on the grandest stages, such as in gubernatorial or presidential races. In Arizona, ballot harvesting is illegal, but the judicial left went to great lengths in 2022 to ensure no one was permitted to put eyeballs on a single drop box. What does that tell you? Once Republicans step into the box and get rolling on ballot harvesting, it is only a matter of time until the practice is legalized everywhere, and with it, moves to expand mail-in voting and further distancing from in-person precinct-level voting, which is already gone in large red state metros such as Dallas-Fort Worth and Phoenix. When that happens, Urban centers that lag the rest of the state in percentage of voter roll turnout will be suddenly energized as hundreds of paid activists ransack every project, dormitory, and nursing home in a 100-mile radius, as our tens of volunteers contribute a few hours per weekend fishing for a few stray votes in subdivisions that stood a much greater chance of being cast on election day without advance notice, given to those using sophisticated data and technology to make sure they are never caught flat-footed in a critical national election again. Philadelphia, Detroit, and Milwaukee will become juggernauts on par with Chicago as pertains to their impact on statewide elections. Ballot harvesting goes hand in hand with mass mail-in voting and is amplified once a state adopts automatic voter registration. Automatic voter registration represents the death of a state's elections, given that voter registration corruption is the catalyst for fraudulent balloting. In 2020, Joe Biden won 18 of 20 states, operating automatic voter registration 243 electoral votes to 9. With just Alaska and West Virginia going to Trump in that category, Trump won 23 out of 30 without it, with Arizona, Pennsylvania, which now has automatic voter registration, and Wisconsin and perhaps Minnesota yanked out from under him with extensive and laborious electoral surgery required for each. Election fraud is what is happening during voting activities, stretching from the day people receive mail-in ballots until the count is certified many weeks later. It is preceded by registration fraud, then mail ballot request fraud rendered moot and sidestepped entirely if a state opts to shotgun blast mail ballots to the entire roll. The system of election fraud is built upon a foundation of systemic, institutionalized fraud designed to eviscerate transparency from the elections process. These subsystems result in the dominant party in a state, Democrats, being able to create voters out of thin air and equip them with a ballot that floats around for weeks, waiting to be collected, harvested, and returned to a drop box. Imagine how well received a system, stripped of all restraint and controls, allowing Percocet to flood the streets would be, and demand it would create due to its perceived value. So things are with all controls removed from our system of elections. On the other hand, to be fair, I know patriots in captured states who have had limited success in ballot harvesting operations to this point. Mitch Clemens from Los Angeles County comes to mind, as does Mike Terry from Clark County, Washington. In some blue spots, Republicans have won local seats and even U.S. House seats, as seen in New York and California in 2022. However, I am not certain those seats can be held with more money, resources, and energy invested by those who created the practice of ballot harvesting itself and assume they were won in the first place because other areas deemed more critical received the most bountiful investments. In some states, patriots have no option but to participate in mass mail-in elections, which is won by the team that collects the most ballots in what amounts to an adult Easter egg hunt. This is not my stamp of approval, but rather simple recognition of the timeline of events that got us here. Early voting wasn't a matter of convenience until the 1980s, and not even widespread at that point. Mail-in voting wasn't a thing until the turn of this past century. Ballot harvesting wasn't a thing until California conceived of the idea a little more than a decade ago. Automatic voter registration wasn't a thing until 2015. Now that window continues to slide, with ranked choice voting seeping in gradually and active discussions about allowing 16-year-olds and non-citizens to vote being held. Quasi-elections are a natural consequence of allowing an inch at a time to be taken until our backs are up against the wall. Conclusion. With nearly 4 decades having elapsed since early voting became a matter of convenience rather than necessity, we, the people, are presented a 2024 election in which, like it or not, ballot harvesting will play a major role, just as it did in 2020. Without the practice, Democrats would struggle to win even 10 states against President Trump this year. There is a good chance both camps, both those in favor of ballot harvesting and those against it, will lament this article because I have dragged the practice rightly through the mud while also affirming the reality that it is here, and its widespread arrival will bring about undesirable consequences for the foreseeable future. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm not telling you to like it or even to take part in it. I am also not signaling doom and telling you we can't win the 2024 election. This journal is rooted in elections reality. Ballot harvesting is a loser for America, and it must be banned at the first opportunity wherever it is found. This audio file brought to you in part by epicthreads.tv, the home of artisan soaps made by patriots for patriots and fulvic and humic acid with zeolite. Also check out epicminerals.net. All right, that is Seth Keshel. Seth Keshel, it's skeshel.substack.com, skeshel.substack.com. Subscribe for money, subscribe for free, subscribe in whatever way is available to you. Just to let you know, these creators do this for a living. This is their source of income. So if you have the means, subscribe and pay $5 a month. They really appreciate it when you do that. All right, let's get to Brian Cates, the always entertaining, brilliant, original gangster of this community. One of the reasons I started doing this in the first place was the work of Brian Cates. This is from, of course, briancates.substack.com. This audio recording brought to you in part by epicthreads.tv, the home of artisan soaps made by patriots for patriots, and also humic and fulvic acid with zeolite supplements for detoxification from the body. Go to epicthreads.tv. Last time they could fake their polls to show Biden being more popular than Trump. This time, the brutal reality is forcing them into admissions they don't want to make. By Brian Cates. 2024 general election, Trump versus Biden. Presidential betting odds. Listed. Trump +2, Trump +7, tie, Trump +2, Biden +1, Biden +2, Trump +2, Trump +4, Trump +8, Biden +2, Trump +4, Biden +1, Trump +4, Trump +2, Trump +2. In the 14 polls on the Real Clear Politics main page containing the aggregate of the current state of the presidential race in 2024, Donald J. Trump is leading or tied with Joe Biden in 10 of them. That gives Trump an aggregate score lead of 2.1 over Biden nationally. This is significant because on this date in 2020, the Real Clear Politics aggregate score gave Biden a massive 7.4-point lead over incumbent President Trump. In fact, up until Election Day 2020, almost every poll in the country gave Biden a big lead. Those national polls played a significant role in the deep state selling the stolen election to the still mostly sleeping public during the crucial transition period from November 2020 to January 2021, when Biden was inaugurated. The deep state was able to use its propagandists in fake news to point to the polls and say, "See, what are you talking about? What stolen election? Biden was always going to win." So, take just a minute and understand the vast sea change you're observing here in the polling. Fake news is being forced to admit Trump is leading Biden in most of their polls. His growing voter base is just that massive. They try to hide it, but they can only do so with limited success. Oh, sure. In many of those polls, they're reluctantly giving Trump a lead of just 1 to 2 points at most. Rasmussen is closer to reality, having Trump up over the ever-increasingly unpopular Biden by 8. But notice the fake news outlets are having to reluctantly admit Trump is in the lead. They certainly weren't doing that 4 years ago in March 2020. You know that if they thought they could get away with it, they'd be doing exactly what they were doing the last time, presenting to the public the illusion that Biden was more popular than Trump. This time around, they know they can't make that sale, so they're not even trying. Most of them are not even attempting to pretend Biden is more popular with voters than Trump. They have to admit it. They don't want to. They have to. The only people who want a Biden second term and are fervently hoping he wins a rematch with Trump are people with America last agendas. Surprise, that's not most of the country. There will be no shocking or surprising, amazing, stupendous, shouting Joe Biden massive comeback as he surges back into the lead in polls before November. Even faking their polls to try to shape the public's perception to sell a narrative that more voters like Biden than Trump is a bridge too far this time around. It wouldn't work. So this is why they're not even trying it for the rematch. Biden has been president for over 3 years now. His record is abysmal. And the deep state knows their dying fake news outlets would bleed out even more of their limited remaining credibility if they tried to fool their shrinking audience into thinking Biden is coasting to re-election. And as the lawfare kicks up into even higher gear over the next 8 months, as they try to seize Trump's properties and bankrupt him, or even toss him into a jail cell before November, that groundswell of popular Trump support, hey man, do you think it's massive now? You keep watching. It's not even half as big as it will get. Trump's enemies will continue to grow Trump's base for him. They've been watching their Trump attacks backfire on them, same as the rest of us, but they can't stop. To stop would be to concede defeat, and this is an existential fight for the deep state. Trump has been openly and enthusiastically talking about what he plans to do to the deep state if he returns to the White House. So they can't stop. They have to keep escalating the attacks. Can't stop, won't stop. Dying animals do desperate things. There is always a temptation to take what looks like the easier route of just not attacking the ravenous and ferocious animal that is preparing to enslave you, and if you won't be enslaved, to kill you. If we don't fight them so hard, maybe they'll go easier on us. That is the coward's path. If you choose to fight that animal, you have to be committed to that fight. No half measures. You must go all in. And that means being prepared to face its most awful efforts to fend off its own destruction should you gain the upper hand upon it. It will resort to increasingly desperate measures to avoid the coup de grace. But in their dying, those who make up this animal can no longer hide what they are. They are forced out into the open where everybody can see the awful and terrible Leviathan for what it is. Its true nature becomes apparent, and what it has been doing from the shadows all these many decades begins to be laid bare for every eye to see. Now, what they once cleverly did in secret from behind the curtains at a slow, measured pace, they're being forced to do out in the open at ludicrous speed as they try to stave off a crushing and permanent defeat. Being forced to do these things openly and at furious speed is robbing them of power, control, and influence over the public. They are bleeding it all away. It's breaking the programming. It's shocking more people every day out of the mass brainwashing, forcing them to wake up. We're at the stage where they're being forced out into the open and onto the exceedingly awkward ground of having to publicly defend the deep state's mass censorship and spying operations, targeting Trump and other U.S. citizens who challenged the official government fake propaganda narratives over the past few years. Think on it now. After years of mockingly denying the deep state even existed, all these media mouthpieces laughingly insisting it was only in the invention of right-wing conspiracy theorists, where are we now? What's the current shape of the information warfare battle space? Here's where we are now. 1. The government shadow cabal is being forced to admit in court what the deep state did in an unconstitutional mass censorship program directed at American citizens in direct violation of First Amendment rights. Accurate information and facts needed to be ruthlessly suppressed on social media because they were being used to challenge the government's official false propaganda. 2. The intelligence agency-controlled fake news is being forced to not only admit the deep state did all of this hidden mass censorship using private proxies, but also to cheerlead for it as being just awesome and having to make the sale to the public that they should be rooting for the deep state to censor us all even harder. They are not forced to do both things simultaneously because they are winning. Far from it. People who went from laughingly dismissing the reality of the deep state during Trump's first term to stridently and with increasing anger insisting it didn't exist to suddenly admitting it does, and it's just awesome, are not doing that from a position of strength. They're being forced to do it because they've been maneuvered into a position of weakness. They are being forced into admissions that Trump was right about every one of those truly weird right-wing conspiracy theories he was babbling about during his term in office from 2017 to 2021, about the spying, the existence of the deep state, and much more. If you still can't see at this point how the ground of the war we're in has continued to shift massively in our favor, you suffer from a mental condition and should seek professional help. One more time, this audio file was brought to you in part by EpicThreads.tv, the home of Patriot-made artisan soap with essential oils and humic and fulvic acid with zeolite detoxification supplements. Go to EpicThreads.tv. And that's Brian Cates, guys, OG of this community. Such a pleasure to be his friend. Such a pleasure to present his work to you. Go to briancates.substack.com. That's briancates.substack.com. Subscribe for money if you can. This is how these people earn their living entirely. So if you have the means, do a $5 per month subscription. All right, that's going to be my show for today. A little work smart, not hard, never hurt anybody. Don't forget to go to epicthreads.tv. Guys, the website is looking pretty damn good. So check this out. I'm going to show it to you right now, epicthreads.tv. Go there and you can see these amazing soaps. So just pull that up real quick. This is called the Reading Epic Threads Marketplace Home. Now we have a little bit of angel paste left. We are sold out of, if I'm not mistaken, let's just check it out. We've got a little bit of sweet orange left. How are we doing on? Okay, we've got a little bit of all of these guys left. And they're almost gone. So this will be the last of it. So make sure to get your angel paste here. The artisan soap, guys, my gosh, it's absolutely gorgeous. The wrapping is gorgeous. The soap itself is absolutely gorgeous. It's got like minerals or something in it that make it sparkle. And all of these soaps are made by members of this community for members of this community. The sweet orange soap is already sold out, but we have the rosy quartz, the sharp dressed man bar soap. It's a bigger soap. We're going to have more of the sweet orange soon. We've got the pink grapefruit, lemongrass, and real poppy seeds are in this bad boy. Eternal Love bar soap, Love at First Sight bar soap, Galaxy Quest bar soap, Wild Thyme and Heather bar soap, Arabian Woods bar soap. I wanted this one to be called Wild Thyme with Heather bar soap, but we I guess decided against that eventually. Ashley said no. Okay. So anyway, get that there now. Also, fulvic and humic acid from Epic Minerals, zeolite extra with fulvic and humic acid spray. It detoxifies your body, gets the heavy metals out. There's nothing like it, guys. Just spray it in your mouth. It tastes like water. Bing, bang, boom. Get that stuff. Can't recommend it strongly enough. Thank you, everybody, for watching today. And I will see y'all next time. Let us pray. Saint Michael the Archangel, defend us in battle. Be our protection against the wickedness and snares of the devil. May God rebuke him, we humbly pray. And do thou, O Prince of the heavenly host, by the power of God, cast into hell Satan and all evil spirits who prowl about the world, seeking the ruin of souls. Amen. I love you all. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you next time.
I will be the greatest president that God ever created.